Israelis lost in every single objective. Netanyahu came like a little puppy and he got slapped. Trump's mandate to basically be that bully. I'm not here to negotiate anything. I'm here to make orders, and you and all of Israel have to obey me. Is that Biden couldn't do it without Trump. And Trump doesn't want to basically inherit this problem. And most people have been like pushing this stupid agenda that Israel controls America. This myth needs to stop. It is the dumbest thing to say.
Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to the I3 Pulse. After 466 horror-filled days of the world witnessing a genocide in Gaza in real time, we are finally witnessing a ceasefire. But we are left with few questions. First, did Trump force this deal, or was this brokered by Joe Biden? And what are the real terms of this ceasefire deal, and can peace hold? And finally, has Netanyahu failed, or is this just the calm before the storm? Assalamu alaikum, Sheikh.
Assalamu wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
How's it going?
Alhamdulillah, barakatuh.
So, Sheikh, I wanted to start off by, people are talking about Joe Biden is taking credit for it. It's really Donald Trump. And I wanted to get your thoughts on this clip specifically and see what you think. So this is from Israeli media.
אמרתי כאן שהראשונים לשלם את מחיר הבחירה שלו יהיו האוקראינים, טעיתי. יכול להיות שמי שמשלמים ראשונים את מחיר הבחירה של טראמפ זה אנחנו. כי הוא בעצם העסקה הזאת, אני לא רוצה להגיד, ננסים להיכנס לתוכה, לא להשתמש במילים, וגם אני לא יודע את כל הפרטים, ולכן אני אהיה יותר זהיר וכולי, אבל אני לא חושב שזה מה שאנחנו תכננו וזה מה שציפינו. חשבנו את דברים אחרים, חשבנו שנשתלט על צפון הרצועה, יאפשרו לנו למנוע הכנסת סיוע הומניטרי לאזורים האלה, וככה נפעיל לחץ על החמאס. מה שקורה, וצריך להגיד את האמת לצופים, אם מיליון עזתים חוזרים לצפון הרצועה, צה"ל לא יחזור להילחם.
So, Sheikh, what do you think about this? It's
well, we already spoke about that, yes. Right? Like we already said it many times before, episodes, in multiple episodes, that Trump is coming to step on the head of Netanyahu. This is what he's here to do. I mean, Israel defied Americans, and the Americans going to basically clamp down on this administration in specific because they want to preserve the state of Israel and they want to support the state of Israel. This is American policy. Nobody doubts that. But this administration have caused lots of problems to the Americans, and the Americans right now came and fired back even before Trump came to office. So this gentleman was basically saying that we were not forced. They were forced. Netanyahu was basically, you just look at the guy's face, he was literally smashed by the special envoy for the Middle East for the Trump administration, for the Trump team. It's not administration yet.
It's interesting because this guy had, as you mentioned, his prediction was that Trump will be favorable to them. And then the prediction that you gave was like, even though Trump has all these Zionist appointments, but these are just projections from Netanyahu celebrating the Trump presidency as a narrative to his people. Yeah. But in reality, Trump wants this all wrapped up, and it's going to be something that the people are going to realize and regret after he becomes president. So, Sheikh, we'll play this clip for you about your previous prediction, which is interesting.
The public doesn't know that America doesn't want Israel to expand, doesn't want Israel to become more prosperous. They want Israel to stay within the set borders for them. Well, definitely. I mean, like it's the Netanyahu government and all the Israeli politicians made their public think that Trump was actually pro-Israel and they're going to support Israel in their endeavors, and definitely this was not. The Americans want Israel to stay within current-day Palestine, and the Americans want a two-state solution. The Americans want the Palestinians to stay within that specific area. And we said that many times. The Americans want this. Now, things could change, definitely, but this was the policy, and this is the policy. You understand? And definitely many people doubted that. Many people basically doubted that, but this is now the Israelis themselves, the officials, Netanyahu, his team, many journalists are saying this.
Sheikh, because this came up as a question in my mind, I'm sure in other viewers as well, in the minds of the viewers, is that this is the exact same deal that was put forth in May 2024.
Yeah.
And then it just got, shut down by Israel. And then in July even, and Hamas actually agreed to this, and then Israel did not accept it. So Biden has been playing with this for many months now. He's the president of the United States. There's a deep state behind it. Donald Trump is the incoming president. Why now? What's different?
Well, what's different is basically Trump came in with a different mandate. Trump's mandate to basically be that bully. He comes in and he crushes people. That's why there's two-party system. The two-party system was built in the United States at the time of the beginning of the Republic, with two-party systems to do that, to have a good cop, bad cop from one perspective, to give people alternatives so they can continue to swing from one party to another. It preserves the regime and preserves the deep state within the United States, right? So that's why.
If the deal isn't done before I take office, which is now going to be 2 weeks, all hell will break out in the Middle East.
Biden couldn't put his foot down and force Netanyahu to agree to the ceasefire. Hamas agreed from the beginning. Hamas was agreeing from the beginning. And then Trump came and told this dude, if this doesn't happen before I go to the office, you're going to be in big, big trouble. And most likely, he was going to put in jail. That's why the ICC, when the ICC put the warrant, we already said that, this was a threat to Netanyahu. And this was the card for negotiation. Trump sent his envoy, says, look, and there was a news article that says Netanyahu tried to not meet the envoy on the same day, he wanted to meet the next day. Netanyahu right now is in big trouble. And if he escapes, to be honest, it will be a miracle. But the United States is going to smash him. And to make him into as an example that don't defy America. If you defy America, even if you're the closest ally, you'll pay a big price. Now, I'm not saying he's going to get arrested and locked up. I'm just saying basically this is part of the pressure tactics the U.S. is using on Netanyahu and his government.
Because it was on Saturday, so he was saying, "Oh, it's
Yeah.
Saturday, it's Sabbath, I can't observe," and the guy just said, "Screw it."
And the Americans know that. So when they come on Saturday and say, "I'm going to meet you," this is to step on his head. This is what we're saying. Like they literally mopped the floor with his face. What did the envoy say? He says, "You're coming. I'm waiting for you." That's it. Netanyahu came like a little puppy, and he got slapped. And he's, look, you're going to either get arrested, you're going to get locked up all your life, or you're going to do what we're saying. I'm not here to negotiate anything. I'm here to make orders, and you and all of Israel have to obey me. So what happened is basically the state of Israel with this government and its people had to subdue themselves, and prostrate to to America. This is how much humiliation the Israelis have went through, and people realize it. Just the thing is, basically, we've been talking about this all along. Just right now, the Israelis have realized it. Most people have been like pushing this stupid agenda that Israel controls America. This myth needs to stop. It is the dumbest thing to say. You have the strongest country on planet Earth, right? That has, more military power, more than, not right now China is big, but maybe like just go back 10 years ago or 15 years ago. The Americans had more power than the top 20 countries on planet Earth. What do you mean Israel? It's nothing. It's a little tiny dot, right? Compared to America. And then there's people who propagate the myth by the left that the Israelis control America. This is stupid. Is there influence? Sure. But this influence is allowed to be there on purpose because they want to keep this entity within the Middle East, and they want to preserve the state of Israel inside the Middle East, and that's why they give them all this leeway. But the minute Israel crosses any red line for the Americans, this is what happens. I just want you to what would happen.
And it goes back to Joe Biden's statement, right? If many decades ago, if there was no Israel, we would make an Israel. Because it's for their U.S. strategic interest. That's why they're allowing that influence. And people
it's an American base.
Yes.
It's an American base. Like all of Israel is just an American base. The Israelis know that. They don't like it. They want to become independent. So what Netanyahu government wanted to do is to make a free Israel. There's no free Israel. There's a little American base called Israel. And they know that. That's why they're trying to basically resist. So when they resisted, they thought they were powerful. They got smacked real hard.
This leverage that Trump pulled, and he just went in, his Middle East envoy just sorted it out very quickly. Biden's been trying for months. Like, if Biden wanted, like, is it a question of he didn't have the ability or he didn't really care to get it done? Like, that's what I'm trying to understand. Biden want to when he was unable?
He did care. He did care. And the short answer to your question is that Biden couldn't do it without Trump. This is 100%. And Trump doesn't want to basically inherit this problem. So that's why Trump and Biden were really working together like a little ticking clock. Trump doesn't want this problem. He's like, look, I'll help you. You can take the credit for it, or to take half of the credit, and run on basically with your life after this presidency, because halas, this guy probably has dementia and so forth. So he's gonna just go enjoy the last few years of his life somewhere.
Okay, so that makes sense. So what are the terms of the ceasefire? They're talking about different stages, phases, like what's happening?
So it seems basically what the Americans really want is one thing: to stop the war on Gaza. That's it. The Americans just want to stop the war. He says, you guys can negotiate till you guys, whatever it is. So phase one is for the Americans. Phase two is now open for both sides. You see what I'm saying? So the Americans just wants to stop the war. They don't want war anymore. And that's why Biden put it very well. It's also in the documents that we saw that the first 42 days is the first phase. And I'm pretty sure the signing will basically happen on Sunday. Again, for the Biden administration to take the credit for it because Monday the inauguration. And what's going to happen is that some exchanges of prisoners will happen, limited exchanges. There'll be a ceasefire, not necessarily end of war, but ceasefire. And this ceasefire needs to continue, meaning if the 42 days, after the 42 days, the Israelis have 8 days to get out of Gaza fully. So by day 50, the Israelis should have left. And then after that, basically, the two sides need to agree on the remainder of the hostages. You see what I'm saying? So the Americans are going to get their hostages also for Biden to celebrate that I got the Americans out. So the rest basically Israelis needs to pay for it. And this is what Hamas wants. Like literally what happened here is Hamas is victorious. Like we need to understand this is a full victory for Hamas. And definitely the one that made it happen is the pressure of the United States. And that's really it. Basically, this is what happened.
Sheikh, then you mentioned this is a victory for Hamas, and then in the flip side that it's a loss for Netanyahu in this case, right? At the very beginning, right, Israel's goal was, and Netanyahu said, we're going to dismantle Hamas, we're going to take over Gaza, we're going to do all these things, push people down, take and resettle the north and everything. Now he's saying we're waiting for Hamas to sign it. Now they're doing hostage exchanges, negotiations with them. Has Netanyahu lost? What is his future?
I mean, like when we say losing and winning is based upon objectives.
Yeah.
And the objective of the Israelis basically kind of fluctuated. They kicked the goalpost, on and on. First, they wanted to destroy Hamas fully.
Yeah.
Didn't happen. But Anthony Blinken just yesterday, gave a lecture talk at the Atlantic Council and said Hamas, all the manpower that Hamas lost, in the war, have been recouped.
Each time Israel completes its military operations and pulls back, Hamas militants regroup and reemerge because there's nothing else to fill the void. Indeed, we assess that Hamas has recruited almost as many new militants as it has lost. That is a recipe for an enduring insurgency and perpetual war.
They've been able to recruit people and replace everybody. Like this is I'm just quoting Anthony Blinken. So Israel lost fully. You kill a leader, you kill manpower, new leaders come in, new manpower come in. So Hamas is, Anthony Blinken saying Hamas is exactly in the same numbers that it was before the war. If this is not a big loss for Netanyahu, I have no idea what loss means anymore. Number two, Netanyahu wanted to create settlements inside Gaza.
Yes.
At least occupational posts,
Yep.
security posts, right? And maybe they were even speaking about actual settlement with settlers, right? The Netzarim settling point and so forth. They will have to leave all of that. Netanyahu wanted to control the Philadelphia corridor, which is the whole border between Egypt and Gaza. They have to leave all that. They have full control of the Rafah border. They have to leave that. They wanted to take over northern Gaza. They have to lose all that. They wanted one of the last things that the Israelis were even negotiating a couple of days ago, is can we still at least have a 1 kilometer around Gaza for security purposes? The Americans said no. The Israelis lost in every single objective. What they did is they killed women and children. So that's their victory. This was a goal. It was a goal. So I have to give them this. They are victorious in killing women and children. This was a goal. It was on-purpose targeting of civilians, hospitals, medical teams, journalists, babies. Imprisoned civilians. There were cases of rape and sexual assault. All these were goals for the Israelis, and I think this is a victory. killing 50,000 civilians and wounding 150 is their victory. Yeah, definitely. Destroying the infrastructure for life, destroying water facilities, electric generators, generating facilities, hospitals, schools, universities, houses of worship. This was their goal. Yes. I think this one, they were victorious in that one too. These are the only two victories.
So when it comes to even the killing of the civilians and all the disgusting and evil things that they've done, which is, as you mentioned, it was something intentionally. They would even target their own soldiers or civilians who were captured as hostages as the Hannibal Directive. So let alone what Palestinians, they don't care even about Palestinian lives at all. But even that victory, Sheikh, well, would you agree or I say see the perspective that their reality, like the hood came off, the mask fell off, where people see to the level of destruction. Like, for example, Candace always is saying, I was a Zionist, but then after October 7th, I saw what Israel's been doing to the people of Gaza and Palestine. I cannot be a Zionist anymore. I cannot. And she's always bashing Israel. You have even Elon Musk saying, oh, what am I missing about Israel? And then we'll put the post here. He gets ratioed. Like, Elon Musk is the guy who altered the algorithm to project his voice. He got ratioed by just some random dude.
Yeah.
So, like, the world sentiment has changed.
Definitely.
What do you think about that?
They lost their stature and their standing, and definitely, as you said, the mask fell off. And can they recoup that?
Maybe people forget. Maybe.
I think this is basically again another social media battle, really. I don't think basically the 2 billion Muslims will forget, and I don't think basically the 5-6 billion people who watched the genocide live will forget either. It's going to be hard to erase it from the we used to say national memory. This is a global memory.
It's parallel.
And inshallah it will not.
Inshallah. You have even American soldiers who would go in front of embassies. I think there was like 3 or 4. They didn't even cover that much, who burnt themselves, right? And that's the person who has no relationship or connection to the people that are being genocided against.
Definitely.
So just people are seeing that. So about this now ceasefire that's been signed and going to be signed, and it's going to take an effect on Sunday. We saw what Israel has done with Lebanon with the 2-month temporary ceasefire. They just keep violating it over and over and over again. Do you see them continuing, like, and trying to say we're not fighting a war, but we're killing people?
Yeah.
Like, how is?
And they'll always basically put the blame on the other side.
Yes.
In the last 60 years, 70, 80 years, whatever the number is, every time the Israelis would make a ceasefire, they would continue to do that, to kill more, and to just, while they're leaving, they'll just bomb things. And so everybody expects it in the area, because I'm from the area. We always expect it. This is it's a usual behavior. So I wouldn't be surprised if they do that. But in this specific case, I wouldn't be surprised if they don't.
How come?
Okay, and if they do, it's going to be very small little things. It's just because Trump doesn't want it anymore. You know what I'm saying? Like, and if they do, if Hamas basically kind of hits back, the one who is going to be blamed is Netanyahu, not Hamas. I'm telling you, the American administration is not angry at Hamas; they're angry at Netanyahu. It's just a fact of life. This is how it is. So in this case, like, I wouldn't be surprised if they do it. But in this case, and usually I would be surprised if they don't. But in this case, I wouldn't be surprised either if they don't do it. There's a good reason for them not to. I think if they do and Hamas responds back and whatever, the things flares up, the only one who's going to get smashed is Netanyahu.
SubhanAllah. So that's now something else that we're going to definitely have to keep our eyes on and see what comes up with that. So there was an interesting, I want to get your thoughts on this. I came across an interesting article by Ynet News, seems to be Israeli media, and they, I wanted to kind of understand what is the Israeli media, what story they're trying to sell to their people, because this is a very tough pill for them to swallow. And so they're saying, Israel is giving a gift back. Trump is giving a gift back. They call it gift back to Netanyahu and Israel. And what is he giving back? Well, he's saying, after this first stage, when the hostages are exchanged, Netanyahu has the blanket permission by Donald Trump to resume the war. This is what they're saying, number one. Number two, the U.S. will lift sanctions against the companies behind the security Pegasus software that's been going into different companies and creating issues, and which is spyware. And then the third is the sanctions against illegal settlers in the West Bank. He's going to remove the sanctions. So what do you think about that? Is this coping, stories, or reality?
No, definitely this is coping. This is coping, and this is like they have to do a better job because lots of parliamentarians in Israel they're screaming their lungs off that this is one of them said we were forced into this. In terms of lifting off the sanctions off of the Pegasus and other companies and some of the settlers, this could be part of the negotiations. I think these basically could have been cards that, okay, we'll lift this, we will not let you go to jail, but you have to do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Could have been no problem. We'll see. We'll get to know because these things will be announced.
Yeah.
In terms of the giving them the green light to go to war after all the hostages are released, I think this is far fetched. I think the Americans are doing all this to have the peace in the area. In this area specifically, and in Syria too, So, like even there was Trump envoys or administrators. They told the Israelis that we don't want you guys to create any wars that are not necessary. Just relax. And they also told him not to criticize Julani and his government. Like the Americans love this dude so much, And people come and tell me, why are you calling him an agent? Well, he's America's baby. But anyway, so it's. So I would say it's far-fetched.
So before we talk about next steps and what lies ahead in the future, wanted to ask you, what is the thing that is on Trump's mind, his strategy that is making him, now they're telling Israel, don't create issues in Syria, don't create more wars, stop instigating issues. Like, what's the bigger picture?
The bigger picture, actually, we said it maybe in our first episode, right? So we said that the Americans are interested in making the region more stable, not for the sake of its people, because for their own sake, and to create the normalization between Israel and Saudi Arabia. This is going to basically create a foundation for, as we said, a Silk Road for America, from India into Europe and everywhere else. Right now, the biggest war for Trump is China. And the second biggest war is inside the United States with his own people. You know what I'm saying? The immigration issues, all these other issues, because these are also ticking bombs from a social perspective, social unrest perspective. It's a big issue now with his MAGA population. But we can talk about this in a different episode, right? So the Americans want the area to stabilize, push back Iran into its own little, a hole, and they want to now normalize with Saudi Arabia and Israel and everything else. This is the American plan for this area in the Middle East, period.
Do we see a two-state solution coming up after the normalization?
Could be, yes. Could be, yeah.
SubhanAllah, when we spoke about reconstruction, rebuilding Syria, there's a whole strategy to rebuild Syria, make it more independent. Now with this, it's Gaza and West Bank, different story, but they're just fully controlled pretty much by Israel. Where do you see that going? Do you see certain countries coming in to fix it? Like, what can we expect? Qatar, UAE, Saudi Arabia, who's going to play a role in this?
Yeah, so the situation in Gaza is a little bit different. Is totally different from Syria.
Yeah,
Syria, they don't care about reconstruction. Just halas, it's good enough. But Gaza, maybe a little bit of reconstruction is needed, because that will be a card for negotiations. Card to set who controls Gaza really. So we'll see basically what they negotiated with Hamas behind the scenes, and will Hamas be demilitarized, right? And or will it continue to be a problem for the Israelis, right, from an American strategy perspective? And whoever is going to help rebuilding Gaza is going to have a say. I mean, they could just shut it down and just keep it like that. It's like, okay, you guys go ahead, live, do your thing. So Gaza needs stuff from the outside. You need to understand Gaza for 14 years before this incident was fully in blockade, literally. This is literally a medieval style blockade from the air, from the sea, from the land. And so you need to understand that Gaza is very fragile. Gaza is very weak, and it's very weak because the Egyptian regime helps in this blockade. If it wasn't for the Egyptian, this blockade couldn't happen.
Yes. So
the Sisi regime is fully in cooperation with the Israelis are genociding the Gazans. And that's why, again, we said last time that the regime itself is precarious right now, because there's many, many amazing, sincere people in the army and in the Egyptian society that could, lead to a coup and then another Arab Spring.
Sheikh, we've seen so much resilience from, the civilians and people of Gaza. From many stories, right? There's women who've lost their husbands and their children are orphans and they're just stuck in the tents in the winter cold, and they just say, Alhamdulillah. Alhamdulillah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is taking care of us. Anyone asks them, how are they doing? What do they need? Alhamdulillah, Allah is taking care of our needs. Like this level of reliance on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that the world has seen, that even non-Muslims are like, what the heck is going on, right? When disaster hits, they lose their faith in their God. Disaster hits the Muslimin, their iman goes higher. What lessons can we take from that we've seen from our brothers and sisters in their terms of their resilience and their sabr and tawakkul ala Allah?
Wallahi, look, definitely this is a huge iman boost for the whole ummah. 2 billion Muslims, they got an iman boost from 2 million people. But more importantly, I think the ummah needs to understand that it will be asked and questioned Yawm al-Qiyamah. For every death and every tortured person, every crying child or woman, and they will basically be punished by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They cannot escape Allah's wrath. And that's why we need to realize that we need to organize as an ummah, the 2 billion people. And we need to start organizing everywhere. We need to organize and start understanding that we need to unify the Muslim world. There is nothing but the unification of the Muslim world that can lead to the liberation of this whole ummah. There's nothing, because liberating yourself and having freedom and independence as a country, having your sovereignty, necessitates you dictating that, demanding that, and that doesn't happen if you're weak. And strength does not come except through unity and unification. And if the Ummah is not speaking about it, it's not speaking about basically what they want to live by, how do they want to live by. And they're just, every single individual or family is worried about their own, like paying their bills and their own foods and their own little problems. We'll never basically be the Ummah that Allah is proud of. So this is the biggest lesson, I think, from Gaza for every Muslim who have watched this genocide live.
So, Sheikh, to draw this podcast to a close, I just want to kind of continue off this message that you've just mentioned right now. There are Muslims all over the world. We're 2 billion, right? There's so many countries that are Muslim countries. And then we also have Muslims in the West. What can Muslims do practically? Because I know there was people doing encampments, there are people who were protesting, there are people who are speaking up, sharing things on social media. And now when the ceasefire happens, my worry is that the voices may dwindle. So what advice do you have so that we can continue to keep this issue at the forefront, and anything practical that we can, the Ummah can be in a position where we're not watching genocides happen every single year? So
the most important thing, brother, is, akhi, and every viewer that we have, is to understand that we need to desecularize the Muslim mind. This should be the biggest priority. Muslimin should see Islam as a political system that they need to live by, not just a personal, spiritual religion. Islam is not a religion, it's a political system that we live by. Within this political system, there is a full-fledged religion to believe in. Okay, but if we don't see Islam as a system of justice that can be implemented in society, and this is the objective of the revelation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to humanity, sadly we're going to continue to be divided, because a national vision unifies us and an individualistic religion keeps us divided. You know what I'm saying?
SubhanAllah. So basically the things that we've been doing so far have led to where we are, and we really need to change our outlook and the way we speak, the way we do things, and our vision for the Ummah, especially the Ummah back home, so that we can actually progress.
100%.
Sheikh, every time I speak to you, I always feel uplifted, and I know for sure I can speak on behalf of the viewers. It's just something that is always learning politically, learning what's happening, with some predictions from the past, from now, some projections as well, but also hope and practical steps. So may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless you for the sake of Allah.
You too.
And for everyone watching, comment, like, subscribe, and share. And watch this space, because we're going to have our inauguration special coming up very soon. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.